Hello, today I've got one of those one-shots for you that I choose to do because it's a landmark in the arc of theatre history. We're going to be doing Sheridan's School for Scandal. Now, this is an 18th century play, so the latest I've done so far, but same century as if you looked at my earlier piece on the Beggar's Opera. And similarly, I'm doing it because it was so wildly popular. It was the by far the most popular play of the second half of the 18th century. Because we're in this period, I'm all set. I've got my pineapple here, very important for 18th century hospitable home decoration. I have my shot of this time Irish whiskey is what I'm doing because Sheridan was Irish, although his career was based in London, and School for Scandal was first performed at Drury Lane in 1777. So for those who are just catching up, the rules of the one shots are that I drink a shot and then get one shot to tell you the full plot of an early modern play from beginning to end, all in one shot. I get no cuts or edits, one go. So going to down this whiskey now, and then I'm going to tell you all about Sheridan's School for Scandal, the satire on the play of sentiment and the man of sensibility. Mm. I should definitely do those ones more often. that was nice and quite stimulating. So let's see if it will help me get through this 5-act farce. So yes, the man of sentiment. A lot of plays in this period. A little bit of background for you here before I get to the plot. A lot of plays being centered on the idea of sentiment and the man of sentiment, the idea that of moral fine feeling is what we're talking about. So when you see that term come up in the play, that's what it's about. But of course, the play is really about the way you can present as if you have that fine feeling and absolutely be an utter hypocrite underneath. So bear that in mind and let's get going. Act one, entirely set up. We get introduced immediately to a whole cohort of fashionable London high society figures. Lady Sneerwell, her sidekick Snake, Mistress Candor. You're getting the idea, aren't you? It's a whole bunch of not terribly subtle aptronyms, names that are supposed to tell you something amusing about the character that you're observing. And this group of people, their entire thing is to gossip and scandal about other high society types. So we're not mostly looking at really elevated nobility here. It's sort of the lower nobility. So everyone's got a title of some kind, but it's just sir, lady, not so much with the dukes and earls and the people who have better things to do running Kent, you know. So we meet these characters, and a good chunk of the play is just whole sections of these people giving fictitious accounts of what's going on about the town, the gossip, the scandal, and they make it very clear that a big part of what they do is to actually make things up, not just to report what is true that they know, but to forge letters, to spread rumors, anything to gleefully result in the breakdown of marriages or betrothals and scandals and duels and all that. So the plot, there is an A plot and a B plot, but they're much more interrelated than in many plays. So that really helps. So for a farce, it's reasonably simple. So the key characters that Lady Sneerwell and her compatriots tell us about are a family, the Surfaces. Yes. Charles and Joseph Surface are young men about town, and they are hoping to inherit a fortune from their uncle Oliver Surface, who is out in the East Indies and has been for many years. In the time he's been away, these boys have been nominally under the guardianship of a simple knight called Sir Peter Teazle. Now, uh, what the town knows about these two is that Charles, the younger one, is a dissipated rake. He's a spendthrift, he gambles, he drinks, he parties, and people think he will come to a bad end. Joseph, on the other hand, is a model of a man of sentiment. Now, Lady Sneerwell lets us into the secret immediately that Joseph is in fact a horrendous hypocrite and is only posing as a man of finer feeling, largely to hope to win the hand of our token ingenue Maria, who is actually in love with Charles. Their love is reciprocated. Lady Sneerwell wants to break this up because she fancies Charles. Now, we never actually get to see her in the room with him, so this whole thing is really just a plot setup. It has no actual... We don't even get to see them on stage together and see if they might potentially like each other. We just hear that she wants to break up Charles and Maria and pass Maria off to Joseph in the hope that Joseph will make his fortune from Maria and Charles will fall into her benevolent arms, because she doesn't care if he's broke, she only cares that he's hot. So that is as much plot as we need to know about them for now, that they are not come into their fortune yet. They are hoping to receive it from their Uncle Oliver, who they haven't seen for many, many years. Now, the knight that I mentioned before, Sir Peter Teazle, this is another thing they talk about, is that he has recently acquired a young wife. Now, we then meet in the next scene, still Act 1, we meet Sir Peter Teazle, and he complains about the fact that he thought it was going to be a great move to marry this girl because she was a simple country lady. She had never seen the city. She had no experience of extravagance and luxury. She lived very simply at home with her family. Now, guess what happened after he married her and brought her to London? Yes, as everybody knew this was going to happen, she immediately is caught up in the delights of the town, and now Sir Peter finds that his fate is that of every aging gentleman who acquires himself a young bride, which is that he's spending all his money and paying no attention at all to keeping him happy. So that's the whole of Act 1. Act 2, we're still talking about setup here because we get to see the Teazles together, which is a really fun scene. So Lady Teazle arrives and they have a whole argument about her extravagance and about how he should have known better. What did he expect? Of course she's a beautiful young woman who is now in the centre of London society, and he's really got no choice but to suck it up at this point. Now, the important plot point, I'm still on Act 2, so Oliver. So this is key. This is going to make all the moving parts fit together. Sir Oliver returns from the East Indies wanting to check up on his nephews. I was going to say wayward nephews, but he doesn't really know they're wayward yet. He's just hoping to find out. So Peter is completely taken in by Joseph and tells Sir Oliver, they're old friends, so they're very frank about what's been going on. Peter's like, I've been keeping an eye on your lads, and Joseph has turned out a model of a fashionable young man, a man of sentiment. Charles is a dissipated rake, terribly worried, don't know what we're going to do about them. So between them, they cook up a scheme whereby Oliver is going to go and test them both. Initially, he thinks he's just going to pretend to be this poor relation called Stanley and go begging for money. But then they come up with an even better idea, because Charles has sold off all the furniture and the assets that he has, and the only thing left is the family portrait. So Sir Oliver decides that he is going to pose as a buyer to buy the family portraits. So that is all the exposition that we need for now. Hang on, I missed it. Crucial development in in where Lady Teasle intersects with the surfaces. So, as you know, they all know one another. The Teasles and the surfaces, and general, they move in the same circles. So, um, Joseph gets the opportunity to make a play for Maria. Maria is the world's most insipid ingenue. Uh, she merely exists to listen to everybody say terrible things about other people and then say, "Oh, how I hate it when I listen to you all say terrible things about other people." So dull as ditch water, got no personality except to be more virtuous than everyone in the room and presumably very pretty. Um, so Joseph manages to maneuver Maria into the room by himself, makes a play for her. She's not taken in at all. She's faithful to Charles. And due to an awkward interruption by Lady Teasle, Joseph, trying to get out of the situation he's in, accidentally ends up arranging to be Lady Teasle's lover. Now, I should point out there's a really strong implication in this play that they never actually do it, and it's really kind of typical uh, of plays of this time, like sort of flirting with the fact that sex happened outside marriage, but never actually really declaring it. Uh, Lady Teasle more or less says, "Yes, I'll let you be that kind of lover that society sees you accompany me places and assumes we're banging." So Joseph here has meant to capture Maria, has accidentally ended up with Lady Teasle on his arm. That's Act Two. Now we're on to Act Three, and Act Three is devoted to the ruse to test Charles. And so Oliver disguises himself, goes off with a faithful servant to see Charles, uh, attempts to buy all the paintings in the house. Charles is happily, freely selling off the family portraiture, but then gets to the portrait of his uncle Sir Oliver, and he is too sentimental about this man who has actually supported him his whole life and is the reason that he even has a house to live in. And no matter how high the disguised Sir Oliver makes his bid, Charles will not sell his portrait. So you can just imagine how much Oliver adores him after this. And that's more or less Act Three. Act Four is when we get the first testing of Joseph. And what the order it happens in is this. So we're Act Four now. So Joseph receives a visit from Lady Teasle, and they sort of define the arrangement and limits of their public affair. And then Sir Peter shows up, because of course he knows Joseph. And so Joseph whisks Lady Teasle behind a convenient screen, because remember I mentioned this was a farce. And Sir Peter comes in and very frankly and honestly discusses with Joseph the fact that his wife is unhappy. She's constantly complaining to him about the way he's trying to manage her spending and always tell her what to do. And he suspects that she just doesn't really want to be with him. And he just really openly and frankly says, what I intend to do is I'm going to set her up with this income that is entirely hers. She can manage it. I want to arrange my estate so it goes to her when I die. And that way she can just live how she wants and I'll stop hassling her. And what do you think of that as an idea? And Joseph pretends to be terribly, terribly moved by this. And then the next thing is, unfortunately, Charles. So remember, Charles and Joseph are brothers. So Charles knocks on the door, and Joseph is like, "I got to get you out of the way, Sir Peter. So Peter wants to hear what Charles has to say. Basically, he wants to sort of hoping to catch him into some confession of his libertine nature. And Joseph says, "No, you can't hide behind. I know there is a convenient screen there. You can't hide behind that because I have a girl there." Of course, he doesn't say which girl when he says, "I have a little French milliner." So yeah, make sure it's a working class girl because it doesn't matter what you do to them. Um, I have a girl behind the screen. You'd better step aside into this side room and you can listen from there. So he puts him in another space. So remember, the rule about a farce, how do you know it's a farce? There are lots of doors. So if we think of the screen as a door and the closet is called a closet, it just means a small side chamber. And then Charles comes in the main door and there's a whole lot of Lady Teasle and Sir Peter Teasle like bobbing out and having quick words with Joseph and him just going, "Get back there." Okay. So Charles comes in, has a chat with Joseph about everything that's going on, about his hopes for Maria, about what's happened with money. And it comes up that there are rumours that Charles might be having an affair with Lady Teasle. Because remember, right at the beginning, I mentioned they just make stuff up, these people. And he very frankly declares that he would never. I would never. And so at that point, Sir Peter comes out and says, "Dear lad, I was wrong about you. Clearly, despite your tearaway young man recklessness that we've all indulged in, you are clearly a good man at heart." So then the word comes that Lady Sneerwell has arrived, and Joseph is like horrified at getting everybody. In fact, he's really the fun part here because he's the one who's got all these people just showing up, messing up his life when he's just trying to seduce Maria. So he goes off to check on Lady Teasle. Charles and Charles and Peter have a chat about what Joseph is like, and Charles is like, so yeah, no, Charles at this point knows that there is a girl behind the screen. I can't remember how that comes up in conversation, but he doesn't know who it is. He thinks it's a French milliner too. He says, "Oh, he keeps acting so moral, Joseph, but we know he isn't above a dalliance. Let's see what's going on here." And they pull down the screen, and lo and behold, it's Lady Teasle. Sir Peter is, of course, devastated because Joseph, who, I'm sorry, everyone, they're brothers. It's confusing. This is why I'm trying to help you here. Joseph, he's devastated because he's trusted Joseph. He's really believed in what he was saying about his virtues, his sentiments, and now it appears he's been having an affair with his wife. And Joseph begins to come up with an explanatory story, but then Lady Teasle comes out and says, "No, actually, let me tell you what's really going on. We had been intending to begin an affair, but I've been here the whole time and I've been hearing all of you talk, and it's really kind of sweet." She says to Sir Peter, she was so touched at the consideration he had for, even though they've been unhappy in their marriage lately, he was so full of care for her well-being and for setting her up with what she would need, and basically giving her freedom to run her life as she wished, that she's just really moved by this and is going to reform, and she's going to be a good wife to him now, and that's what they decide together. So then we have to get the Sir Oliver stuff figured out, don't we? So there's one more gulling scene where Sir Oliver, just get everyone else off the stage, forget all about them except Joseph. Sir Oliver does go through with the ruse of pretending to be the poor relative Stanley, and this is because Charles, once he acquired all the portrait money that he sold, um, immediately sent off some money to the poor relation because he knew that he had this relation that needed something, the poor cousin Stanley. So Oliver pretends to be poor cousin Stanley, goes to Joseph to beg for money to see whether he too will be generous, and obviously he isn't. Um, and so that means that Oliver is now aware of what a sham Joseph is. Okay, so now we get to the denouement. We bring back all the gossips from the first scene, the Lady Sneerwelder, Lady Candor, and all the people who just love to spend their time scandalizing everyone in their circle, in their social circle. And of course, by now, they have heard about uh, all the goings on with Lady Teazle, the two brothers, and Lady Teazle's husband, Peter. Now, of course, the story has got way out of hand, and there's all this stuff about, oh no, they duelled and they fought with pistols. No, they fought with swords. Also, Peter is terribly wounded. Oh, I always suspected Lady Teazle was a bit like that all along. And so you get another look into the way society at this point just loves to have a story and rip everyone apart and gossip and the way it gets bigger and bigger and more ridiculous. And then Sir Peter comes in and they're like, "Where is your terrible wound, Sir Peter?" We can duel, stop that. And it is then, well, basically we need to get everyone else into the room. And first of all, we get the surfaces, and then Sir Oliver arrives. And remember that Charles thinks that Sir Oliver is the buyer who he just sold all the family portraiture to. Joseph thinks Sir Oliver is poor relation Stanley. They both get told that Sir Oliver has actually arrived and is heading to see them. So when they see him, they immediately say, "Oh, we've got to get him out of here. We can't let Sir Oliver see this guy." And so you get the big denouement reveal where they're both trying to wrestle him out of the room. And then Sir Peter comes in and says, "Hey, yeah, that's Sir Oliver, your uncle, that you are manhandling there. He's the guy that you're supposed to impress in order to get your family fortune." Now, of course, Oliver, everyone now knows the reality that Charles is a tearaway young rake with a good heart, and Joseph is a complete sham, a hypocrite, and a hollow man. And so Sir Oliver more or less says, "Yes, I'm going to settle my estate on Charles." Now that makes him a perfect candidate to marry Maria. And Charles says, "Yes, of course, and I'm going to obviously reform because I will be so inspired by her angelic presence in my life." And they all resolve to um, accept the fact that sometimes young men are just a bit exuberant with their money, and any older man who marries a younger woman is really probably going to have to put up with the fact that she's going to like pretty dresses and parties. And they that's really it. That's where they resolve. The whole thing ends with an epilogue from Lady Teazle, who tells the audience that yes, she's absolutely sincere in the fact she is going to move out to the country and be a good wife now, but doesn't that suck? Because really, parties and flowers and gowns and that's much more fun. But we all make compromises, and that is marriage, and that is society, and that is Sheridan's School for Scandal.